when I look at the Evil Geniuses spring split of 2020 lineup, I see an actual lineup that is pretty representative of the yin yang, and the fact that there's this good and evil portion, or just the line of, say, ridiculousness or something in which can achieve success. And I view Evil Geniuses as exactly that. They can either be a team that can be pretty good. I'm not going to say a team that's actually insanely good, like, say, one or two. So maybe the whole ridiculous comparison isn't as well. But the instance of evil and good, of course, fits well with the branding of what Evil Geniuses is supposed to be, right? So when we look at their lineup, I'm going to start from the top because I think Kumo is a pretty good player from what he's shown. I think he has a lot of potential. I think he's shown to be a pretty good top laner when it comes to the games in which he's played in, of course, from Cloud9. I mean, this guy's Aatrox and Poppy is fucking sick. It's pretty unreal. Because he did wreck in 2019 whenever he was subbed in. And then you look at his Academy games and his Poppy, and it's pretty off the charts, right? So, but with that said, I am a massive critic when it comes to rookies, just because of the design philosophy of League of Legends itself runs off of the ability to adapt. That is the most important skill in League of Legends, is to be able to adapt. And, well, that can't really be tested with a rookie, right? You have to put them, through the fire and flames and just throw them in the deep end of the water in order to give an actualization of how they will play, right, within the League of Legends landscape. So it's to be, determined when it comes to Kumo in that sense. Now, Kumo's job within this entire lineup is that he's got to be this stable player, because we all know that fucking Jizuke isn't a stable player. And if the entire top side of the map collapses because both Kumo and maybe Jizuke are having a bad game, you can't have that. That's going to completely destroy your entire roster and that game itself, or even multiple games, to where now you're always going to have a weak top side, just because of how League of Legends is just built as a game, and that mid obviously is the most important role, right? It needs to be very stable in order for a side of the map to not be completely shut down. Now, if Kumo fails and Jizuke succeeds every game, then yeah, you don't really have to worry about Kumo too much. But I don't actually believe in Shizuke that much either, which we'll get into in a minute. So with Svenskeren in the jungle, obviously, being the MVP before over in 2019 summer split, this guy is the best jungler that you can get in North America, right? So to say that this is a bad pickup would be incorrect, because Svenskeren is essentially the insurance of the team, right? He's able to pick things into which he selects the best possible scenario that he can make happen. And he does that every single time. And he's very consistent about being incredible. So when you need someone as like a stable rock, I think Svenskeren is no better choice for a jungler. And I also say that too because he is the jungler that is probably best at being at a very high level of multiple different styles, right? He can be that control style jungler. He can be that hard carry jungler. He can play towards every single lane in the entire map. Like he doesn't have a restriction in what lane he's necessarily good at, irregardless of players, right? So some junglers are only good at playing towards mid, regardless of who their mid laner is, whether that mid laner is good or bad, right? So Svenskeren is able to play towards all lanes, regardless of whatever skill that laner has, and he's able to actually determine which lane he's able to snowball most effectively, and then therefore give him the highest chance to win the game. So he's a very intelligent jungler in that sense, has a little bit of cerebralness to him. I wouldn't say he's the most cerebral jungler, but he still has enough to get the job done, essentially. So he's a really good jungler and a really good linchpin for evil geniuses to play off of. And another exciting thing is I think he might actually get the chance to play his carry style due to the actual players on his team, right? If you look at the bot lane or if you look at the top lane, it shows that, okay, these lanes, hopefully they're stable, and hopefully they, maybe Kumo plays tanks or bruisers or whatever and doesn't play too many carries. And then Svenskeren is able to then put on the carry pants and destroy the enemy team. So maybe we'll get to see that. Although every time I see a lineup with Svenskeren in it, it's kind of what I'm hoping for anyway. So maybe that's just me wishing. But regardless, I think Svenskeren is the best jungler for this roster by far. Right now, you go to the controversial mid lane, Jizuke. So I will admit that there is a caveat in me judging this player, is I didn't watch much LEC for 2019, so take this with a little bit of grain of salt. But as far as I know, Jizuke is still an inconsistent player. He's a very coin flip player, high highs, low lows, right? And so when you consider that, and then when you consider a rookie into the top lane, and this is my big concern, is that, well, if you have a coin flip player and then you have a rookie in the top lane, and say if he performs bad and then mid lane also coin flips the wrong way, then you're fucked for that game, essentially, because the top side of your map is just getting completely destroyed, and you don't necessarily have a carry-oriented bot lane either. So it really puts a lot of pressure on Svenskeren to carry a lot in that sense. So I don't feel comfortable with Jizuke in this lineup. I'd be more comfortable if Jizuke was regarded as, a very good mid laner and a very consistent mid laner, but he's not. He's just noted as someone who's mechanically skilled and can pop off and make crazy plays, but aside from that, he doesn't have any other upside to him. It's not like he's this incredible roaming player or able to spread his wealth of getting a lead outside into other lanes or anything. He's not really that player either. So it just makes me wonder how Jizuke is going to function within this lineup. And I'm just worried that if Kumo collapses, then Jizuke will still play aggressive. And you can kind of think as Jizuke's play as the Huni of mid lane, which is pretty funny, right? Considering everyone was thinking Huni was going to go top lane or mid lane for this season. So on to the bot lane, you have Bang and Ezreal. Now, I want to remind people of Bang's playstyle, which was play safe and be the best team fight ADC in the world, essentially, right? Or one of the best teamfight ADCs. And that's what his function was in SKT, right? Now, if you look at Zeyzal, Zeyzal is a pretty good support player, I would say, and he's also a really good and vocal player and engaged support player. So this kind of harkens back to what Bang was familiar with, in that in SKT, Wolf was his engaged support, and he was also pretty communicative too, as far as we know. So I think this is like SKT light for the bot lane, essentially, right? Like, because Zeyzal, yeah, he still has some catching up to do to Wolf, but you could consider this as like a light version of SKT. So I'm really interested to see how this lane functions going further into the split of Spring Split. And midway through, maybe we'll see Zeyzal kind of come back into his own and kind of regain his status, as it were, in the past when he was known for being really good at engages. So this overall team composition, personality wise, I actually think this team will do fine Zazel, like I said, is a pretty vocal player. Getting to know him from interviews and things, he's very talkative. Getting to look at the voice comms and whatnot of actual Cloud9, he was pretty vocal as well too. So I don't have a problem as far as like this entire team having a vocal problem. And Sven is clearly vocal enough since he knows what the fuck he's doing in the jungle. And as a jungler, you can't be a top tier jungler without having some vocal skills when it comes to especially the early game, right? So I think in those two regards, you need to at least have two vocal players within your team. And as long as you have that for them to either bounce ideas off of each other and also keep each other in check, I think that's a very good symbiotic system. And then we go to, okay, first, I just want to touch on the branding, because who the fuck decided to go with a brand of evil and yet only get two potential trash talkers in potentially Jizuke and Sven, right? Like, I mean, yeah, we know, or we've heard legends of Jizuke being toxic over in like EU solo queue and whatnot. And then you have Sven Skaren, who also used to be pretty toxic back in the day when he was over in EU and shit. And then also you hear a little bit of flame from him sometimes in interviews and stuff. I know I've done some interviews with Sven Skaren where he said some very like hostile or very barbed words and shit. So I think, yeah, they fit pretty well with the brand. But then you also have to consider, like, if you go for a full brand of evil, then it's probably just not going to work out at all, right? Because all of them are going to be butting fucking heads and being super toxic. So I can kind of understand that from that perspective, but I mean, seriously, like, the rest of your fucking guys are just like chill. One guy doesn't even fucking speak full English, so it's like, and one guy's a fucking super big rookie. So I don't know how you're expecting to build an entire brand of evil, but maybe they're looking to make themselves like a G2 in essence, of having a couple vocal voices to spew a little bit of toxic shit here and there, but essentially toe the line. And I guess that's where I can see this, and that's why I titled this the yin and yang, essentially, of like riding the line, because I think if evil geniuses can actually do that, to ride the line of being like evil and good at the same time, I think they'll do decently well. But I mean, come on, like, if you're gonna join the league in the beginning, at least let us see some fucking super flame in the beginning. That'd have been sick. I'm just saying. Anyways, so I think Sven essentially is going to have to carry the fuck out of this team, or else this team is just not going to work. There's too many things that can go wrong over in the top lane, over in the mid lane, even in the bot lane, considering that they either are going to go even or they're going to just not be good, right? Because that's essentially what Bang has been known for in his entire career anyways, is going even or slightly losing, right? So I'm not expecting anything else from the bot lane. And then if Jizuke is a coin flip player, then, well, Sven needs to make up for that difference whenever Jizuke has a bad game. So he's going to have a lot of heavy lifting in this entire team composition. So I'm excited to see how this team does. I still think they'll make playoffs, secured at least 5 or 6. But aside from that, I don't actually see them going any further unless Kumo and Jizuke prove me otherwise. So I'm pretty indifferent about this team. I think there's a lot of mysteries that we can see, but hopefully we'll see something good from them.